every good gift is liable to misuse. As somebody who's talked a lot about the misuses over the past several years, I'm getting a little tired of it, and I want to start being more thankful for the good things it can do.
I'm good. I'm glad. I was tired of the hating on tech from day one, so I'm glad that over here.
Don't get me wrong. There's still a lot to hate on it. Don't get me wrong. There's still a lot to hate on it. But at least as far as in my own personal life, I don't want my choices to be driven by my anxiety and my hatred of something. I want to be driven more by my thankfulness for good things instead.
Yeah, well said.
Hello, you are listening to What Would Jesus Tech? My name is Andrew Noble. I am joined by Joel and Austin. I am a professor. Joel is a product manager. Austin is a pastor. And together we are trying to reconcile our love of Jesus with our love of technology. Yes, we actually love technology. If it's appropriate to say we love pizza and we love different things of this world, you know, we're not supposed to love the things of the world according to John, but that's a different use of the word love, okay? We like technology, if you will. And we like it so much that all three of us use it and build with it. And even though we're in different areas and spheres of life and our daily routines are pretty different in terms of what we're doing, we still each are finding value in AI. So we've had many episodes talking about the flaws of AI, the seduction of it, and the allure of the attachment that it can provide to you. And maybe we'll touch on a little bit of that as we go today, but we really want to spend some time helping our listeners use technology. We've always said in this podcast, use tech, find rest, and glorify God. So let's do that. And I'll just state here right at the beginning that when a lot of people talk about, oh, I just vibe coded this, or oh, I just built this, and then you look at what they've actually built, it's often disappointing. People oversell how valuable AI is, and they feel this intense productivity when they're working directly with it. But it's kind of like, I hate to compare it to this because it's personifying it, but you know when like a little kid makes something out of Lego and they're like, look how cool this is, Dad. And then you're, as the dad, wait a second, what is that? You know, you're trying to be polite, but the truth is that it's not that good. And I worry that a lot of the things we make with AI has a similar bias toward the maker. Because you've made it with the help of AI, you think it's great, when in reality, it's not so hot.
Can I throw a wrench in that real quick? Yes, it's true that usually when people vibe code stuff, it's not great at first. But Andrew, you and I are writers. We write a lot, and we know that in order to get to a final finished thing, we often have to have a first draft. We often have to have something that is workable and usable, but you know that it's not the real thing. Like why can't people like be excited about what they vibe code just like you and I'd be excited about a first draft of something that we're working on?
Correct. So it is part of the process of learning. And like I've said to many people, in your job, you will likely need to fail first in order to improve at AI. So that is totally a fair point. Joel, instead of just thinking about some abstract principles on how to use AI, what have you built with AI? Maybe let's start there. And both of you, congratulations on your new babies, by the way.
Yes, we have.
Which might be in the background.
I was about to say, if you hear a baby, that is likely not my newborn. That is likely my toddler throwing a meltdown, which of course he decided to do as soon as I walked into the office to start recording. But here we are.
So Joel, what are you making right now?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm actually more interested to hear what you guys are making, because for me, when people say, what are you making? It's less about papers and stuff. It's more about like code or products or something like that. Probably the first thing I made this year was using Figma Make, which Figma is a design company, and a lot of designers use that to make visual designs for websites, for products on iOS or Android or web. And they have a new tool called Figma Make where you just prompt it and you can actually upload, let's say, your company's design standards, and it will follow that and then recreate it just like a designer would. So I've made a couple prototypes showing a future experience of a product that doesn't yet exist. And in product development, usually you go from wireframe to high fidelity. And usually the wireframe is like literally like pencil on a scratch pad or just like lines. But now you can make better wireframe diagrams that actually, let's say, have animations or click-through effects, which solve part of the challenges earlier. For example, if I just showed you two screens and said, hey, screen A leads to screen B, there's a little bit of suspension of reality that you have to do where you're like, okay, I don't exactly know how they connect, but I'm going to follow Joel and be like, he says they connect, so they connect. Versus now in agentic coding, which is like the more a professional way of saying vibe coding, or the more like official way, vibe coding is like a slur these days. But now you can actually say like, oh, if I click this specific button, this transition happens, this screen pops down as a modal. You know, you can get more nuanced into like, how's a real experience? And then debate and discuss that earlier before you kind of go into making the high fidelity work, which is like creating assets. Yeah.
You used a term there, and I actually was going to ask you about it because I actually was a project manager before I went to finish my MDiv and went in to do my PhD. And so I learned about the different project management workflows. And so I've seen this image where one of the three ways of doing it is the waterfall method, where you kind of build something over steps. So if you're building a car, you start by building the wheels, and then you build the engine, and then you build this, and then you build that. And so it's this sequential approach. And then agile product management, or project management, if you will, instead of starting with building all the pieces of a car, you start with building a scooter. And then in addition to building the scooter, after that, you're like, okay, well, this doesn't go fast enough. Let's add some propulsion to it. And then you realize that's not good enough. So you add 4 wheels instead of just 2 wheels, and so on and so on. And that's agile. And then I've seen it compared to AI project management, which is at the very beginning, the very first thing you make is a rocket ship with windshield wipers and CD player and like a million other functionalities built into this one very awkward vehicle. And it has a whole bunch of gimmicky stuff that doesn't make sense. And then you iterate on that to get rid of all the slop, the AI slop that comes with it, in order to eventually make a car. So it's 3 ways of making a car: waterfall method, agile method, and then the AI method. But you are kind of pushing back on that third approach and saying you should use the second approach, more agile, in your
I think management. I mean, I remember when agile was becoming a very popular thing. I don't even know now, maybe 10, 15 years ago, right?
It's funny,
like, hey, this is a faster way to build, prove out the value of what you're building, and then iterate on it, rather than having this grand vision, putting all these resources, and then getting to the end and it failing, right? So that's like kind of like the ethos of why you would do agile, or how it's like caught a lot of traction. I would say AI has allowed you to, let's say, make like 50 different scooters at once, actually. So instead of like this massive rocket, you're making like a bunch of different scooters with different variations. And then you can either, in very disciplined companies, like test them all, like A/B test really fast, and then like figure out which scooter is winning. So it actually like just supercharges the speed at it. Or actually, you can just internally like critique those different designs. So you don't actually have to take it all the way, but you can like kill a bunch of ideas and then like focus on the ones that are winning. So it does follow your analogy where, hey, you have a rocket with windshield wipers and the CD player and all these things where you're like, hey, what doesn't make sense? So that does resonate, where like in that critiquing process, you're looking at this thing and you're like, yeah, like, you know what? That's a good idea, but actually I want to take in a slightly different direction, you know? And those are the conversations you're having, except I wouldn't say it's actually building a massive rocket. It's you can scope it down to build a scooter.
Joel, do you know the extent of incorporating AI into existing agile methodologies? That's agile is what we use at TGC. That's the one I'm most familiar with. I like it when you've got good people driving it. When you've got good project managers, Agile is great. When you don't have good project managers, Agile is miserable. So do you know if AI is being incorporated into Agile, or is it seen as like a threat to the Agile way of life, so to speak?
Yeah, I would view it as more of a accelerant to existing methodologies or belief systems or, ways of working. I think like that's generally the right way to do it. Is how does AI automate or streamline a process? And this probably like actually leads me to the second thing I built with AI is like, okay, I made these like designs, but then I realized that like there are research and synthesis elements of my workflow that I could start automating. So for example, at work, we use WebEx, we have meetings, we talk, we have like conversations. And there used to be, and still is, like AI summaries. And the AI summary would come out and be like, it's not that great, whatever. But now what I've actually done is get the full actual transcript, which is like, what did people actually say? And it downloads it and then puts it into an archive. And then it assigns like a topic, it puts it into like a knowledge graph. And then when I am, let's say, building something, I can say, hey, go back into my repository of all these conversations on this topic and like, synthesize the critiques, the debates, because I'm going to forget a bunch of that stuff in the conversation. So I created automation scripts, or actually what they're officially called are skills, where you can give your agent different skills. And this is a WebEx transcript skill. So, hey, how do you go pull this transcript? How do you process it? What other software Python supporting functions do you need to actually be able to properly ingest it, right? So you build this little skill, and then you can package that. And we have an internal repository at Splunk and Cisco where other people can build skills, and then you can share it across the company. And someone says, oh, like I made this PowerPoint skill. Oh, I made this skill on how to make this sort of document. So kind of back to the point, all of our workflows are now being codified into the agentic way of doing it. So it doesn't replace it. It kind of just accelerates it. And maybe some things are like, yeah, this doesn't actually make sense anymore because it's superfluous. We just skip that step altogether.
Yeah. Yeah. That sounds awesome. It's a shame you can't share those skills publicly, but maybe someday.
So there are now open source. It's big, right? In the AI world, there's open source skills. So Anthropic actually has published a lot of skills that they've built. So if you just go to Anthropic's GitHub, they have a bunch of skills, and you can just tell your agent, be like, hey, like, can you just go into this website and download the skills? And the agent will just download everything, install it into the skill folder. And then anytime you prompt it, it knows what skills it has. So if you say, hey, for example, you said, hey, make a PowerPoint. Before the skill, it's like, I don't know how to work with PowerPoint. I don't have a PDF skill. I can't do anything.
Right.
Now it'll be like, oh, there's this PowerPoint skill in this folder. Let me look into it. And it's like, oh, to work in PowerPoint, I have to use this Microsoft add-on. I have to use this functionality. Yep. And then it knows actually how to get the job done. So yeah, go download some skills.
Yeah, and I've experienced that with Claude because it has a lot of those skills built in. And even though I've used it for editing Microsoft Word documents many, many times, it still has to reread the skills file before it does it. But I've never introduced my own skills into the library. Like I've never become that much of an expert, because part of this is the different ways, because some people put Claude or whatever AI tool they're using right on their computer, and some people like me prefer to just keep it in the internet browser and use it in that functionality. So I think there's some additional functionality that sometimes you get when you have it right on your desktop as an app unto itself, but
not always.
I just use it. Yeah, well, you talk about that, Austin, because you were telling me about an experience with that.
Yeah, so over my paternity leave, I actually had margin to actually start finally building a little bit of AI incorporation into my personal management, family management, whatever you want to call it. But I kept my computer in my office because we were redoing my entire office and I just didn't need my computer. And so I was working with Claude on my phone. And so I was talking with Claude and like figuring out things I could do, things I couldn't do. And one of the most helpful things that I found that I could do with Claude on my phone is bulk set and bulk manage my Apple reminders. I could add things to grocery lists. I could add things to task lists, and I could do multiple things at once with just a single prompt. So I could give it just a bullet point list of a bunch of stuff, and it would just do all of that in once instead of having to manually go and do each reminder individually, one at a time. Same thing with calendar, with calendar management and stuff like that. And my thought the entire time I was doing this was, okay, I can do this through Claude because I'm doing it on my phone, which means that when I get back into the office, I'm needing to use my computer again, I can do the same thing on my computer. And I was wrong. Mac OS Claude actually will not let you do that. You cannot do the same prompts. And what I was interrogating it and asking it, why can't you do, in a little bit of frustration, is like, I don't understand why I can do this on one device and not do the exact same thing on a device that is more powerful. And it straight up said, yeah, your intuition that Mac OS Claude would be more powerful than iOS Claude is a reasonable assumption, but in this case, it's actually not true. There is some functionality unique to iOS that is letting Claude do the things that you're wanting to do on desktop, on your phone, that doesn't exist on desktop. That Mac OS is actually inferior to iOS in some very basic ways that won't let you do things that seem really straightforward. Like this
is integrational stuff, right? Like you're basically using Claude to say, add reminders in my reminders app, add things to my calendar.
Yes.
Instead of having to open a calendar app, you're using the agent of Claude to interact on multiple apps on your phone.
Yes, and it actually works
sorry
really
to
well.
Slow down the basics there, but I'm like, wait, I didn't even know that was truly possible.
Yeah,
because I don't use that.
And it's actually worked out really well. It actually works really great, and it's what I want to get to. Like, I think the thing that I'm trying to like slowly build towards as I have time is to get to a point where I am able to do what I need to do on a screen from one simple interface. I know that's not exhaustively true, and those are going to be some things that you just can't do. But it's like, if I can use Claude as kind of my like middleman for my calendar or for reminders or for Obsidian, I would love to especially do Obsidian integration at some point, but that's not there yet. That I think would kind of take a little bit of cognitive load off me, and that I'm not having to think about 3 separate things that I got to constantly navigate to and click around and tap around all the time. I can go to one place and have it do all those things all at once. You can do that on iPhone. You can't do that on my much more powerful MacBook Pro.
So I think actually this is really good, because you mentioned like you wanted to use AI for personal life automation, and I actually think that's probably what most people at a baseline should be using AI for, is like managing their personal life a lot more. We kind of talked about executive assistant and stuff like that. It's not
that's what I'm wanting to use it for, is executive assistants.
Yeah, and it's not fully there yet, but we are on the way. And like actually the deficiency is coming down to what we call the harness. And maybe I'll just take a step back and kind of like unpack that. So
what is the harness, Joel?
Yeah. So
explain it like I'm 5.
Well, we'll start with Anthropic, for example. The company has a couple different large language models. Sonnet, Opus, the new Mythos that we've talked about. Those are these foundational models. We've talked about LLMs in the past. And then the harness is everything around it that allows it to do something successful. And I think the analogy, for example, would be if you have a horse, it's a wild horse, you have a lot of like raw horsepower, and it's powerful, but it can't really do what you need it to do. But if you put a harness on the horse and you put it in a carriage, now it can actually do a function that you want. It'll pull it in a certain direction. You can steer it left, you can steer it right. So the harness is actually all the scaffolding around the model that makes it useful. And what happens is Claude actually is a harness, and then they have multiple like sub variations. So they have Claude Code, they have Claude Cowork, they have Claude CLI, which is command line interface, where it's just like a window where you're like typing in the terminal. And command line interface, because of where it's running, has more access natively to the orchestration kernels and systems in your computer. So if you're using that harness, you can do more powerful things. And that's why engineers and coders are usually using Claude Code in CLI. But then they said, hey, there's like product managers, there's knowledge workers. They're not going to go into the CLI tool. So they made Claude Code with a web app or a desktop app. That's probably the Mac OS one. And then there's the iOS one. And iOS, for example, also has permissions for calendars and these things more exposed to that harness.
Yes.
Mac OS, you actually need to like download a skill so it knows how to actually like connect these pieces. So adding the skills that you can get from the web or building yourself, plus what Anthropic is building out of the box, that's collectively like your harness. And the game right now is like, how do you make your harness most effective for you?
That's really helpful. And that explains why I was getting frustrated with Claude, especially on both Mac and iOS, but mostly Mac. Like its inability to navigate itself internally. One of the other things that I was wanting to do was be able to have projects for all of my various other personal projects or work projects, but be able to update those projects just simply from that one landing interface. And it said, well, I can't read that from here. And I'm like, well, why not? But that actually helps. That helps a lot. So thanks for explaining that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm myself just having the eureka moments as we're stumbling through, how do I get this AI to do anything worthy of like being like, wow, that was worthwhile, right? Of my token.
Right.
So we're all in the industry now kind of like trying to figure it out. And as the tip of the spear, we're going to have to distill that to be like, okay, now I figured out how to do it in a super like nerdy techie way. How do I now make that like easier for someone who doesn't understand kernel primitives and like file folder permissions and all that, and like distill that so a user could just be like, I want you to do this, and it will install the skill itself. Like, okay,
AI needs to enter. To go back to the car analogy, like y'all are the mechanics. Like y'all understand how the engine operates, and you understand how all the various components of the car interface with each other. But when someone, a sweet old grandma pulls up into your shop and says, "Hey, my car's making a funny noise," like she doesn't necessarily need to grasp all of the workings of an engine in order for her to know, oh, my car's fixed, I can drive it now. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
But it does help to kind of think about what it actually is and how it works and the different levels of the technology, because it does something similar to Isaiah when he's like, hey, look at this piece of wood. It's a piece of wood. It's used for fire. Like, this is how it's used for fire. It's also used to keep you warm, and it's used for this. It's not a god. But he describes what it actually is and how it's good. Like, even though it's a mocking thing, it's still, by explaining the materiality of it and actually how it functions and even does good for you, it helps you see it for what it is and for what it's not. And I think what Joel has just done for us in the last 20 minutes is describe what AI actually is, so that when someone's like, well, wait, couldn't it be like used by a demon? Like, doesn't that kind of seem like silly question when we've just had the last 20 minutes of being like, well, what are you talking about AI being a demon? What about the harness that you're using? Are you talking about the harness being like, what level? Yeah. And this is just all code. Don't you understand? Like, it's chill. This is not a spiritual entity interacting with you. This is a piece of code.
This is my plea to anyone who genuinely finds that AI is a demon heuristic persuasive. You can believe that if you want. You can believe that to yourself if you want. But if you genuinely put that out in a public setting, you are telling on yourself that you do not know anywhere near as much about AI as you think you do.
Is that still trending?
I still get asked.
It's a thing.
Every time I do a talk on AI, literally on Wednesday, it was one of the key questions. It's like, oh, can demons use this? And
you don't have to tell on yourself that AI genuinely scares you, and it's okay that AI genuinely scares you, but you don't need to tell on yourself by using something that people who do genuinely understand AI and know how it works knows is just nonsense. You can believe that if you want, but you don't have to make yourself a fool by making it a serious idea.
Okay, I have a perfect segue now, guys. So that is one of our best episodes. One of the most downloaded episodes is the episode that we do on can demons use AI, and in the title of the episode we say yes, demons can use AI within limits. But if you are a listener right now to this podcast, you will be thinking to yourself, do I have time to listen to another 45 minutes to an hour on that episode? Could you just send me the Coles notes of like the key aspects of that episode? And this exists right now today. If you go to our website, whatwouldjesustech.com, you will see the ability to download a ebook. And this ebook has all of the best insights from our best episodes in a nice and easy to read format. Thank you, Austin, for your facial expressions. Because this genuinely,
Sick.
if I was a listener to this podcast, and in many ways I am, because I learned from you guys, I would want this to catch up. And as I went through and edited this, because this is what I made with AI. So full disclosure, we used AI to turn our podcast into a book. If you add up all the words that have been in our podcast up to this point, it's over 500,000, guys. We have said over 500,000 words on this podcast.
That's a lot of words.
So if you think about that, training the AI, it's not actually training it, but it's using those words and taking the best of them from our guests as well, from the things we've said, and it heavily relies upon them when it's writing whatever it writes. And I have verified it. And now we have that in a nice and easy to read. It's like a very short ebook. You could read it in like 2 to 3 hours probably, because it's about 40,000 words. And yeah, it was fun to go through, and it was a joy, genuinely a joy to use AI to make it. So yeah,
that's super cool, man. I'm pumped that you did that, and it shows actually how you can use tools for good. And I think if I could riff on that with my third thing that I've created, it's a personal wiki, I would call it, or a knowledge graph. And Austin mentioned Obsidian earlier. I'm not sure if you used it, but Obsidian is one of the more popular. I think it's like a 4-person company, but it's
tiny.
It's crazily downloaded, and it's all markdown files, which is like, instead of text files, it has like a layer on top where you can add styling, like headings and like formatting and stuff like that. But it's not as heavy as like a Word file, so it's kind of like in between.
And it's not proprietary too. So like if you're using like Apple Notes or you're using like Evernote, like those are all proprietary file types. They only work in those apps.
Yeah, so it's like a gray file type. And now the system will take, let's say, all of our past podcasts and put them as like different entries. And what it adds is a link at the top to say like, what is the topic and how does it relate to something else? So now in Obsidian, there's a graph view, and you could see how all the topics connect to each other. And then when you ask the AI to like look at all your previous conversations that I did for work, that we did for our podcast, it can actually not only just say like, here are 50, 100 different entries, but also like, oh, this one is about like demons and this one's about this, and they're actually like more spiritual, and these are maybe more like just like technical, how do you build? And now I can actually like group this into like sections in a book, right?
Yeah.
All of that workflow is super useful for a curator, for someone who's actually being like, well, actually, I want to focus more on this aspect. And this is like something that we need to unpack more as you actually use your creative skills to like put that ebook together. So, super excited that, you've been able to do that.
Yeah, I would like to see, I was talking about this with Andrew the other day. I would like to see that, that lodestar of content, those 500,000 words, whatever, like, not right now, but at some point, eventually even repurposed into something like a markdown repository, something that lives on GitHub, to give to people who are either personal wiki builders or other tech workers who could have use for that. Just because you're right, there's so much there, and if it were to be properly built out with backlinks and proper formatting and tagging and stuff like that, that would be, I think, a tremendous gift to give at some point. But you should download the ebook because I have seen it and it is quite nice. It's
I
very
will
nice.
I will download the ebook and put it into my agents wiki because right now, and this is the way I'm working now, is I have like what would Jesus tech, I have my work, I have like taking care of the family and the kids and health as like different domains of my life, and my agent actually knows all my domains.
Yeah.
And as I like talk to it and work with it into like, oh, like file this into that bucket. And like when you come back to your computer and you're like, this is your what would Jesus tech time, I'm going to like pull it back up. So it's like, I actually felt like I was behind in adopting AI, and I've been struggling for the past few months trying to set all this stuff up. But now I'm feeling like maybe I'm finally getting there. Maybe I'm finally getting to a flow.
I kind of resolved while I was on paternity leave, like when you go from 0 to 1 in terms of kids, that's a shock unto itself. 1 to 2 has proven to be not an additive increase, an exponential increase in challenge. I was like, no, like AI is a good thing and it's a gift and I should be thankful for it. And in that thankfulness, I should use it and always try to help me work better for the calling God has given me and my family. And so I, like you, Joel, I felt like I was kind of behind and I'm starting to kind of get there. If you haven't documented what you've done for your own like personal management agent, like I would love to see that, and I'm sure listeners might be interested too. Like, hey, like what are the steps I have to do, like step by step, to build something out like this for me? Because I would sure use it. I'm building it myself, but I would gladly just gladly cheat off your homework there.
Yeah, no, great. I should post it for sure. That would be a good artifact to create for. Oh, and another. Speaking of artifacts.
Oh yeah, artifacts.
Well, I just thought, like, one of the things that a lot of people who are brand new to using these tools don't realize is that memory, it being on, is important so that you can,
yes,
interact with it consistently. Like, I had to tell someone, it's like, no, you should actually sign into an account and use the consistent account. You can click on an option so that it doesn't train on your data if you're worried about that, or retain your data. But I have instructions for my Claude. I'll just read it. I tell Claude, I appreciate learning scholarly work. I am working on a PhD in theology. I teach at seminary and at churches. I like logical analysis. If you don't know something, say so and/or look it up. I prefer accurate truth over misleading connections. I'm Reformed, small c Catholic, and Baptist and Christian. Like, put your cards on the table. I wanted to follow this. Okay, back to what I say. When Claude summarizes work for me, I like it when it uses direct quotes whenever possible. And I prefer Chicago-style citations.
We're getting really granular there, man. Chicago-style citations.
That's what I want. Like,
but that's what you have to work in. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, so this is just an example of you can customize it at this level to what you want.
And right? That's a really good artifact to show on the screen, because back to the harness conversation, for people who maybe are working in tech, there's something called a Claude.md file, or in other systems, they call it agents.md file. So again, we talked about markdown files earlier. That little paragraph you put, it actually puts into a Claude MD file. And then every time the LLM boots up, it reads the Claude MD file first and is like, oh, this is my like role and my purpose. And then like, these are the skills. And then like that fills up, 20% of the context window that it has. And then it will like go and do the rest of the work with the rest of the context window. So it's crazy that all of these concepts we've been talking about for a year or so are starting to add up into something that is like, functional. And the analogy I often tell people is like, you can give your agent a couple different layers of, distinction. So let's say you say, hey, you're a carpenter. That is giving it a role file. You could call it like role.md. And then that markdown file is like, what does a carpenter do? He builds things. He like uses this equipment to build a door or a chair. But how do you build a door or how do you build a chair? That's a skill file. that's a skill that the carpenter learns over time of like, this is how a chair comes together. And then skills can actually use tools. Tools could be like a drill, could be a hammer, could be a screw. In the computer world, tools could be like, how do you parse PDFs? How do you do like number or stuff like that, like math, right? Those are all like little like tools that you can teach the computer to accomplish a skill, to accomplish its role. So it's a kind of like an onion that we're putting together here, where it has multiple layers. And yeah, it's good to use it right, because you'll get much better output than just like pasting into a prompt window on ChatGPT.
Like, it really is just jarring to think about the state of AI even this time a year ago, and how I was working and all of the stuff I was having to juggle with the various with the tech stack that I was using at TGC at the time, and just how a completely new way of doing this work is possible. It's not there yet. There's still a lot of things you can't do, and even when you try to do things that you should be able to do, it may not work the way that you want it to. But just, there's a completely new way of doing computer work that is being built before our eyes. And I find that really exciting. I understand that, believe me, I understand the dangers and pitfalls of AI. Like I've been on the record plenty of times about my thoughts there on that. But the thought of doing computer work in a completely different way from how it's currently being done, like I'm hopeful that this will actually genuinely allow me to spend less time doing computer work once this is built and once this is operating, that I'll be able to do the things that I need to do, but not have to spend as much time staring at a screen compared to the last 5 years of my life, where I basically have lived in front of a screen. And I'm tired of living in front of a screen. There's things I need to do in front of a screen, but if I can spend less time in front of a screen and AI will help me do that, then I'm going to pursue that. And I'm excited of what could happen with that.
It's so interesting because I'm spending so much more time reading and typing now because of AI and all these systems. And I've recently switched from typing to narrating, and my wife walked into the room and was like, who are you talking to?
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm talking to the agent. She's like, okay, great. But the patterns of working are changing. So I don't know. Maybe ideally, Austin will get to the point where it's like, I could be on the go and just like call it up and tell it to do things. But right now it does require still like a lot of like reading text.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. And to be clear, there's, and Joel, you probably are more familiar with this than I am. Like there's the same thing that email created. Email was ushered in as this, time-saving technology that's going to, give people their time back or whatever. And of course, we know that's not what happened. We know that isn't what is happening for some industries with AI. Some companies are shoving it down their employees' throats and trying to get them to do more work, not less. But I think that is an abuse of the technology, not necessarily something that has to happen, but something that is being exploited. Every good gift is liable to misuse. And I, as somebody who's talked a lot about the misuses over the past several years, I'm getting a little tired of it, and I want to start being more thankful for the good things it can do.
I'm good. I'm glad. I was tired of the hating on tech from day one, so I'm glad that I'm here.
Don't get me wrong. There's still a lot to hate on it. Don't get me wrong. There's still a lot to hate on it. But at least as far as in my own personal life, I don't want my choices to be driven by my anxiety and my hatred of something. I want to be driven more by my thankfulness for good things instead.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah. All right, I want to talk about something else I built. All right, guys. So
go for it.
I will just state briefly before I get into it that what I'm going to talk about is in the area of multimodality or whatever. Joel taught me this on a podcast 2 years ago, multimodal AI.
Is it in the ebook?
Yeah, it actually is. It's one of the chapters in the ebook that if you just Control F in the ebook, you'll get straight there. But basically, there's different modalities. There's text to text. There is also image to image or audio to audio. So this podcast that you're listening to right now uses AI to change our voices to make them a little bit more crisp and clear in the output that you are listening to right now. Now it's not perfect, but helps. And the other day, I forgot my recording chip for my church's podcast. Yes, I do another podcast for my church called Thinking About It. And I had 3 other guys with me, and we have all the microphones set up, but I don't have the chip to record. So we just used an iPhone, and then I used AI to turn that conversation into one that sounded much better. Not as good as it would have if there was microphones, but with something like auphonic.com, AUPHO, or just search that, you'll see some AI editing software that if you're a pastor and you have a podcast, you can use that for free up to 2 hours a month in order to add some editing to your system. And I told someone one day, I'm like, yeah, it makes my voice sound deeper. And they're like, oh, how dare you use it? And I'm like, well, I don't use it because it makes my voice sound deeper. It just happens to have that side effect.
I mean, what it's doing is it's just applying a very basic EQ to your voice, which is like, as a musician, it's like, yeah, the thought of making my voice deeper, it's like every time I talk into a microphone for anything music related, like, of course I'm going to do that. Like, that's
right.
This isn't an issue here.
Right. So that's thinking about audio and how AI is in the audio space now and helping us out quite a bit. So what I want to do now is talk a little bit more about visuals. And so this is something that I wanted to solve a problem. So I have my actual library, which has a whole bunch of books, and I really appreciate physically being near my bookshelf and just glancing up at it, being reminded about the books that I like. It's something about not only the fact that the books are there, reminding me of their presence, which is good unto itself. Books I haven't read that I'm like, oh yeah, I value that topic, so I want to read more about it. But also just the recall of seeing the books that I've read before and being reminded of them just through them being physically in the room. Well, your Kindle library doesn't do that. Anything on your phone doesn't do that. I'm showing my screen right now for you who are not listening to us on YouTube. And by the way, if you're on YouTube right now, you should probably subscribe to us right now before you keep going. But your Kindle library is super small. So I wanted to fix this. So my goal was to create something called BookBurst, which AI thought was a terrible name, but I don't care. BookBurst. It's an app where users upload a spreadsheet of your Kindle books. Then the user receives a bunch of images of a digital bookshelf and then can manually add them to their Apple photo library or whatever, and then make it so that it's on your phone. Now, this exists on my phone right now. So you're looking at images of real, well, we're going to get into that, but are they real books or are they not? But basically, every time I open up my phone, I see a new set of books because I've created BookBurst. Now, when I first created this, I used Claude, and oh boy, was it terrible. It was absolutely terrible. It was pulling information from Google Books API so that it would get the correct color. And I was trying to get the width of the book in the image to line up with the actual width of the physical book. So that took some trial and error. And then it was creating this, but it wasn't visually appealing. It was very bland. You can see all these books here. So I kept going, kept trying to improve it. And I said to myself, what if I add another layer of AI? So there's the first layer of the books on the shelves, but then I need Google Gemini, which is what I used. I think ChatGPT has improved their image making quality considerably in the last few months. So ChatGPT does a much better job on creating images than they used to. But essentially, I can give it a image and I can say, improve upon this image. And then it was creating something that looked more like a real bookshelf. And then I would make it so that it would fit into my iPhone screen and I could have it like this. But I was doing a lot of manual editing. I was like, make this one with a matte finish, make this one with a dust cover, make this one. Like I was manually adding this. And I'm like, why am I manually?
Well, it also looks like on this particular image, like it can't think more than 4 books of the relatively same size, even though I know quite a few of the titles that are listed on here, and they are not 600, 700 page tomes. Like The Great Dechurching is not the same size as Anna Karenina. It's just interesting to see how it thinks.
So it would consistently make mistakes. Maybe the Google API would not exactly get the right book. There'd be a something going wrong. And so I realized I need to allow for some agentic workflow. So I used a Claude agent in my browser to Google search for me each book and describe what they see. So that way I have Claude doing the work of creating a detailed prompt for Google Gemini to create the image. And this led to way better results. What you basically have is then you have, okay, this has different textures. Oh no, that's not even before. This is still me manually doing it. And then I got the AI agent to take over my computer, take over my browser. It would Google search for me. So Becoming by Beholding, it pulls up that book. Excellent. Becoming by Beholding has a stunning cover and a detailed ornate cathedral, blah, 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 warm golden or like tones. Like it just picks up on all the details that it sees because it's multimodal. And then I have something that looks like this. This is sick. AI generated.
That's so cool.
Looks
Andrew,
like a bookshelf.
I have been grinning ear to ear for the listeners here this whole time because this is the thesis on abundance. Okay, you as a theologian, as a professor, you're not like a coder, a builder, but through AI, you've been able to build something. This is as the same process as building a script that I mentioned earlier, or a skill, right? It's the same thing. You could publish this as a book building skill or something right now. It's at that level.
Yeah.
And you've been able to accomplish something that you told me, I don't even know, 6 months ago, something. And you're like, hey, like, what if we like made this app? And I was like, yeah, maybe. And like, we could do it, but I didn't have the time for it. And now, because of your passion and the innovations, you're like, you know what? I can just do this. And what it's unlocking is like for everyone who is creative, ambitious, wants to do something, you can do something. And they just say that the meme is like, you can just do things.
You can just do things.
Yeah. And it's like, that is so exciting to see that and be like, oh my gosh, people should be leaning in because this is the new era of abundance.
Yeah. No, it was a fun process. And I did this a couple months ago and I've regularly been using it on my phone. I have it there. This is actually an older image compared to some of the newer ones, but it did legitimately help me. I was teaching a class on the history of technology, and that week on my screensaver, I saw Dominion, and I was like, what Dominion book? That looks different. It looked different to me than the Dominion book I know by Tom Holland. Well, there's a Dominion book about the Canadian Railroad that is about the Dominion of Canada and how the railroad was so important to the formation of Canada. And so because of that reminder of that, the image, the pixels on the screen were reminding me of that book. I pulled up that book on my Kindle. I read through the first page and I quoted that first page in my course because it proved to me that Canada was formed through technology, whereas America was formed through an idea. There's actually a very interesting thesis there because British Columbia, according to this book, Dominion, would not have joined Canada. They were using U.S. postal or California postal stamps. And for the people in British Columbia to consider whether or not to join the rest of Upper and Lower Canada, like Ontario and Quebec, to get there, they had to go through the states. Because there was no path across Canada. And they only joined, British Columbia did, instead of joining one of the colonies in the States, they only joined Canada because of the promise of a railroad. To the foundation of Canada is technology. Anyways, we're getting off track, but it's just to say that I had a goal, and you always need to set your goals at the beginning. Part of my goal was to learn how this would work. And you need to prioritize your taste. I know there's a meme of this guy with a big beard who is, he just talks about, I get hired for my taste. And I don't know. I don't even know the context.
He's a musician guy. What's his name?
I don't know his name, but whatever that is, maybe pull it up if you want. But he sounds like this Yoda guy. He's like, I just get hired because I believe in in my taste or something. And you do need to think about that.
So does every other social media user for the past 10 years.
Okay, here's a tangent. His name is Rick Rubin, and he helped.
Oh yeah,
like
okay.
Beastie Boys, Run DMC, LL Cool J,
One of the most important
Red Hot
individuals
Chili
of
Peppers.
modern
Like
music.
he
So
basically put them into his recording studio and be like, oh, like, you know, tweak it this way, whatever. And then eventually came out that he's actually not a musician himself. He just like tells people like, oh, this actually would resonate better. I mean, he is, but he's not that.
A lot of producers aren't musicians. That's a whole separate, or if they are musicians, they're not necessarily very good musicians. That's a whole different field of knowledge and skill. So that doesn't actually surprise me at all.
Yeah. But he's now iconic because he was in a documentary where he's like, I just have good taste. And then people ran with that meme because there is an element of truth for that. It's like what's going to be valuable is if you can build anything with AI, what's going to be good is like good taste, you know?
Taste can be cultivated. Like taste is actually something that probably should be cultivated. But it's, hang on. Let me finish the thought. Taste is something that can and should be cultivated. But taste is not common or not uncommon anymore. So like actually prove that you have taste, you have to distinguish yourself from every other person who also thinks they have taste. And there's a lot of really bad taste out there that you have to sift through now. Just simply claiming that you have taste isn't enough anymore.
And according to Paul in his letter to the Philippian church, you need to think on things that are lovely. It's skipped over because we're like, oh, think about whatever's excellent, whatever's pure, whatever's truthful. It's like, well, according to the Apostle Paul, we need to think about things that are beautiful, that are lovely, that are pleasing to the eye. And so taste does matter. When I was trying to create our new website page for how you can download our ebook, do you like the What Would Jesus Tech bracelets, Joel? Is that why
they're awesome? I mean, like, Andrew, you're a builder. Like, this is awesome.
This is what I've been building. Sometimes you just got to put your head down. It's like, what are we going to do? Hire someone to do this? It's like, no, like I have taste.
Right.
We're going to do this. But this image here, this is an image from my desk, but my background on my desk was ugly because it had a whole bunch of other things. And I just wanted a clean background so that the focus would be on the books. But when I took that image and I was like, just blur out the background and add like some greenery or whatever, it changed some of the books. There is one of the books, The Consolation of Philosophy, which I think is a good book on technology. I think it's very relevant to our technological age. So I included it in the stack. But AI, even though it was only told to focus on the background, it changed the title to The Consolation of Technology, which is just hilarious that it did that. But you gotta be focused when you're doing this kind of work. And by the way, we got all sorts of books on our website. Go to whatwouldjesustech.com and you will see various books that are read by us. And then if you click on anyone, you will go in and you'll see a blurb about it, some episodes where we talk about things related to the book. And host comments. And Joel and Austin, right now for a bunch of these books, you only have comments from me. So send me your comments for any of these books.
Yeah, I should do that.
There you go.
And I'll add them to our website. So anyways, this has been what I've been working on, Joel. Joel, I appreciate how proud you are of me. I just feel it in this moment right now.
It's just like, how do I say this? It's like the feeling of seeing, someone who maybe doesn't know, like, this is not the right analogy, okay? But let's say you're a kid, start riding a bike for the first time, right? And you're like, oh, I know how to ride a bike, but the kid doesn't. And then the kid like learns and figures it out. And you're like, wow, like there's that feeling of pride. So I don't know if other like tech builders will feel like this, or they'll feel threatened of being like, why are you riding my bike? That's my job. But it's
that's a good analogy.
It's like, we'll see people building that weren't traditionally the ones who could do it because technology has allowed them. So it's like this feeling of like, wow, this is going to be a whole new era. And it's going to unlock things for people who have the right ideas, who have the right understanding of humanity. Is going to be back to the taste thing. Is like, what is the pain point that people are struggling with? And how do I address that? And that will be, at least in my view, more valuable in this new age. So it's an opportunity.
Well said. All right, well, let's wrap it up there. Just so you know, Joel, you referenced our episode on Mythos. That was a Patreon only episode. So if people want to learn about our take on Mythos, which actually has proven to hold well over time, because we were not saying it's simply fake and whatever. We did believe that there was real security problems being fixed by it. Joel, you were better than that on me, and it's probably one of my favorite episodes on our Patreon right now, because you helped me discover the 7 personas of AI users.
Yeah.
And it was like a good taxonomy for thinking about, there's those who are, caught up in it in some ways. You'll have to listen to it. So go to our Patreon. It's linked in the show notes. You can support us for just $1 a month, and you'll get access to all of our materials. You will get access to not only the Top 40 book, which is free. You can get that off our website. But as soon as you support us for $1 a month, you get all 111 episodes. So I gave it a title, but I forget what the title is right now. So you can just follow the links.
And I want to jump on is like, usually you guys are the ones who are like, hey, like, subscribe, join our Patreon. And I'm like quietly sitting there in the background. But as we've been building this over time, and I'm seeing people like join the mission here and subscribe, and even if it's $1 a day, it's not really, to me, the dollar amount. It's more about seeing that like we have people coming alongside us for this journey, and that's really encouraging, to like the spirit to be like, hey, like, okay, well, we're doing something that God is asking us to do, and we'd love for you guys to help us do that. So yeah, please listen to Andrew and Austin and come alongside and see what we can do in this new era of abundance.
Well said, Joel. Use tech, find your S, glorify God. Take care.
See y'all.